This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. Gunners R Us podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek, and our promo code is TBA Wrestling. That is TBA Wrestling. Put that in the promo code for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Arsenal. And that we are. And this week is just myself. There's no Joe. As we mentioned last week on the podcast, he is in Florida. He's landed. He's ran into the giant Omos for any WWE fans. And he's there. He's in the humid weather. And we're here in the rain of the UK. But we're watching Premier League football. And he missed the PSG game last night because he was flying. I gave him some updates on AirPlay and Wi-Fi. But we'll get into all those things today. We've got PSG to talk about, that Leicester game that was way more stressful than we thought it was going to be. The upcoming Saints game, and then it's the international break. So we can kind of breathe for a minute. And then we'll kind of move forward for basically the big chunk through Christmas, where we thought this was quite intense fixtures. It's going to get even more intense in the next 3 months beyond in 2 weeks' time. So it's going to be a bit crazy, but we've got today, like I said, PSG, Leicester and Saints to talk about. Other than that, City dropped points this week. We've got the prediction league at the end where we'll go through all the games this week and what we think the predictions for all those games are. And I'll let you know who's winning in the game, in the kind of leaderboard, I think. And then other than that, listen to us on iTunes and Spotify. Gunners R Us podcast, let everyone know. Download all the episodes. We're here every single Wednesday on iTunes and Spotify, and also on a Wednesday at 10 a.m. GMT. We are always on TikTok at Gunners R Us Pod on TikTok. Check us out. We're there right now. We've got a few people joining. Just kind of a watch along, as well as kind of throw your comments and predictions in for Prediction League and your thoughts on Arsenal and all those kinds of things. So I think where we'll start is obviously the weekend. We had Leicester at home, and I think of, when we started the season, we looked at the first 6 fixtures, and we knew through the first 2 internationals, we had those 6 fixtures. We knew we had a Carabao Cup tie and a couple Champions League games. I was kind of going with the idea of looking at the 6. I think we said on the podcast, we talked about it last week, that I would have been happy with about 10 to 12 points. That's what I thought was realistic. Anything above that, I thought we were doing very well. If we can beat Saints, that will be 14 points and no losses, which again is 2 points more than what I thought. I based it on the worst places we go all season are Anfield, Villa Park, City and Spurs, and 3 of the 4 are done in the first 6. Brighton are a bit of a bogey team at home for us. Wolves at home, I thought we'd win. I thought we'd win at home to Leicester and at home to Southampton. So those 3 were, in my head, good wins. And then the other 3, probably draws, maybe. And that would be 12 points. But I also thought we'd probably lose a couple of those, potentially to City and Spurs. So, yeah, 10 was kind of where I was aiming. 14 is hopefully where we're going to get. But even if we get a draw at the weekend, it'll be 12. So it's kind of at the top end of what I expected. We've cruised through the Carabao Cup, which, had that happened at this time, it hadn't actually. So since the last episode, we've played Bolton, Leicester and PSG, which is mad. And in the TikTok, we've got Diamond Jack, the barber. I thought Kai had his best game. Yeah, I agree. I think with the absence of Odegaard, I think Kai Havertz has been, considering he's had to move around, he's been so good. He's been such a good signing generally, but it's kind of week to week, it's getting better and better. Any news on Timber? I'm not sure. I have no clue on the Timber stuff. I'm hoping it's nothing major. But yeah, we got the Carabao Cup, and then the 2 Champions League games we did were away to the Europa Cup winners and then PSG at home, and to come out with 4 points in the new kind of league format, I don't know how that's going to work really. Short, long term, I don't know if draws mean that much anymore because you're not playing both teams home and away. But either way, 4 points. Again, like I said, get through Saints. If you'd said at the start of the season that we would have 14 points in the league, 4 in the Champions League and 4 in the Carabao Cup without a loss, I'd be extremely happy. So, especially considering Odegaard's been out for majority of that time. The new signing Moreno was out for all of that time, and then who came back last night, and we'll talk about that. And Calafiori, the other new signing, missed the first few. Saka's had to miss a couple. So considering those things, and then Rice obviously with the suspension. I'm extremely happy with how it's kind of worked out, and then kind of that was pre any of the maybe injuries or suspensions. So definitely with the injuries and suspension, I'm very happy with how it's all gone. Last night from Diamond, did you see Diamond Jack the Barber asked, did you see the vids of Conor McGregor on the pitch with Rice last night? I did. And yeah, he doesn't even look like a real human, does he? It reminds me of like almost like Spitting Image or something. He just looks so larger than life or something. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't look real. It's mad. But no, yeah. So we went. We had Bolton. We'll kind of go in order, I guess, because I completely forgot that Bolton was between the last two episodes. But Bolton, and we'll just gloss over it. But we went quite strong with it. There was a couple of younger guys in there. I've been quite happy how he's used Lewis Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri so far. Ethan Nwaneri came on late in the North London derby. He scored 2 goals in this Bolton game. Lewis Skelly came on in the City game. He played this game, and he's actually come on late in the Champions League to make his Champions League debut. So as far as kind of utilising those younger talents, obviously you want to get them kind of game time. You want to get them used to the day of games, if that makes sense. So they have to get used to the process of the day. That's one step. Next step is obviously getting them on the pitch and just experiencing the atmosphere. And then the next level is obviously getting performances. But all these things help because even if Lewis Skelly plays a bit part in this Champions League run, a little part in the Premier League, it's things if you're going to sell him, for example, you can say he's a Champions League, he's got caps in the Champions League or caps in the Premier League, he's only 18, blah, blah, blah. And you do that, you get more money. But obviously the idea is that he's going to break through into the first team. Because I genuinely think he might take, with how fluid the defenders are, I could see him taking Zinchenko's spot at kind of like third place left back. As weird as that sounds. Because obviously much less wages. Obviously a much higher ceiling as far as age. And in that position of third choice, Zinchenko's too good to be third choice left back. And even last night, again, Zinchenko's been out this whole time as well for some reason. The Calafiori's a centre back that can play left back. Timber's a centre back that can play right back. Timber's been playing left back majority of the season. Ben White's been playing right back. Ben White's now injured. So now Calafiori last night, for example, played left and right. So Zinchenko's pecking order-wise, because Kivior then came off the bench to go left back and move Calafiori to right back. So when Tomiyasu and Tierney are fit, I think Zinchenko's somewhere between Tomiyasu and Tierney is the choice of left back. And again, Tomiyasu is a right back by nature, but he's playing left back. So I don't know. I just think he's dropped down the pecking order, and I think replacing him, for example, next year, if you sell on someone like Zinchenko and make 30 million, you replace him with Lewis Skelly, who's already there. And this year, you use that time to kind of get him used to the process of being in the first team, and he can then come in and play bit parts for the next season or so. But Ethan Nwaneri, I think, is a lot closer to actually just playing games because. For both of them, Ethan Nwaneri scored 2 off the bench at the Carabao Cup. Not off the bench, sorry, just in the Carabao Cup, and then come off the bench in North London derby, and he trusted him with that. I really would like to see him. I know Arteta doesn't change much. He stayed unchanged from Leicester to PSG. I would love to see Havertz go back up top fully and go back into the original shape, because obviously we've changed our shape from our usual kind of 2-8s and the wide players and the forward who drops in and whatever. Because Odegaard's not there, they can't kind of do that press and things like that. So they've kind of changed to a box. So people keep saying it's Havertz or Trossard up front. It's kind of both of them, with Partey and then someone to create a box. So Partey's always in the box. Havertz and Trossard are always in the box. But sometimes Martinelli will cut in and sit in. Timber will invert. Calafiori will invert. Rice will drop in. So it's kind of ever-changing, but there's just a square, and I think that's just been their way of getting through not having a number 10. But Ethan Nwaneri is that number 10. So something I would like to see is this weekend is the two lines of thinking is stick with what's working and just get it done, get it over the line, and hope Odegaard's back the other end. My thought is that Odegaard might be 2-3 weeks beyond, maybe longer, the international break. So get back to our original shape, because based on the fixtures, we've had to kind of play a different type of football anyway based on the fixtures, but then double it up with the certain players missing, we've had to change the style as well. You don't want to keep sticking to that style and it migrates into actual your style, and then when Odegaard comes in, he doesn't fit, and then it takes a while to kind of rejig it. So I think Southampton at home would be a really good time for Nweri to come in for Odegaard, positionally. And also Moreno's now played 30 minutes. Even if it was Rice, Moreno and him, Ethan Nweri, and then you have Havertz, Martinelli and Saka up front. It might be a really good time to do that. Get back into that rhythm and then go away into the internationals, knowing that when you come back, you can go straight back into that with Ethan Nweri in for Odegaard. And you haven't thrown him in the deep end. You've given him a couple moments and then given him Saints at home. And again, if it starts to not work or you go 1-0 up and then you're struggling and you need to drop into a different, you just literally bring Trossard on, Havertz drops in, and where he goes off, you go back to that square and you just carry on doing what you've been doing. But it just seems like a good time to do that. But he was really impressive in that game. He kind of disappeared in the second half. I think maybe tiredness. Lewis Skelly was really good in that game. I forget, is it Maldini Kakuri? He came off the bench. Looks a bit like a larger Lewis Dunk. He was extremely good. Coming off the bench, and he kind of partnered with Gabriel. But generally, you got Rice on the score sheet and Nweri on the score sheet. We were quite, very happy with the way in which it was going. And we obviously another set piece as well, but I think it was 4-5-0. It's so mad how many games happen. I think it was 4 or 5-0. Fairly sure it was 5. Don't know why I'm completely forgetting on that. And Jason in the TikTok has come in with the inner words of Arteta. Buenos dias. Hello. It is a goodly morning, as some would say. But yeah, we win that game. It was an easier game. It was 5-1, wasn't it? 4-1. I forgot that Bolton scored on the counter. But again, using those players and then going into the weekend with Leicester, you kind of thought the Leicester game is such an odd game because I think we all kind of thought it's 3 points and we were way too confident. The way in which the first half went and kind of, I didn't see any of the game until the highlights, but I was watching on Gillette. The amount of chances we had that we didn't score, but when we scored 2, they didn't really have anything. They didn't really get forward into their half hardly. When you see that and you're 2-0 up, you think, oh, okay, that's at least we're going to cruise to it. It's a shame maybe like this weekend things like Spurs have won, City drew, which is a really good situation for us. Cole Palmer scores 4 for Chelsea. So people, as far as teams around you, they're not losing, but you kind of thought, all right, it's just one of those weeks. We're going to win. Other teams are going to win, but at least we're not losing ground. But then, straight off the half, from a set piece of all things, a deflected shot. I think it was totally random. It won't happen often. A completely wrong foot try off the back of Havertz. Then Justin scores one of the best volleys in a long time, which again you can't account for. It's unsavable. It's undefendable. It's just kind of a really good goal. So it goes to 2-2, and then all of a sudden it turns into one of these days at the Emirates that we get at 3 o'clock here and there, which is late on in a game where we're just pressing for a goal and it's getting very frustrating. There's a low block. But this was a particularly frustrating one because the goalies seem to have the best game of his life. The stats show that I think it was 36 shots, 18 on target. He made 14 saves, the goalie, let in 4 in the end. Saka created more chances than anyone in the Europeans' top 5 leagues in a game. There was all these stats that came out afterwards. So basically, when you watch the highlights, some of the headers from set pieces, the couple of Trossard's one-on-ones, just unbelievable. And any other day, those 2 other goals, the deflected goal and the worldie doesn't happen, and most of those goals go in. You win 5-6-0. No one questions it. But instead, you kind of think, oh, maybe we, on the surface, you look at it and think maybe we've got a couple issues brewing. That the fact that Leicester scored 2 goals are ours. But I think it's also one of those games that everyone has every year. City will have one this year. We'll all have it where nothing seems to go in. and the other team have 2 chances, 2 goals, and they're worldies or whatever it is. This will happen to every major team, but usually you end up losing or drawing those games because it's just so random, and you have to kind of be like, football world didn't want it. The football gods didn't want that kind of to happen. So to come through and actually win it 4-2 is really good. And you kind of just got to forget about the scoreline and just be like, look at the stats. It was a domination. It was definitely the right trajectory. And we're definitely carrying on in that course. And watching the Saints Bournemouth game in that first half particularly, we should do extremely well against this Saints team. And Ramsdale knows full well what's coming with set pieces. And I really do think, I feel strongly about us beating Saints this weekend. But the Leicester game definitely makes you kind of question this. But again, like I said, if you kind of look a little deeper, watch the highlights or read the stats, it wasn't as close as it kind of seems like it was. And again, there's some talking points we need to get to in this game. I think the first 2 goals, Martinelli finally got an assist in the week against Bolton. He got a goal and an assist in this game, I believe, against PSG last night. He was really good. It feels like maybe he's finally broken that seal, and then he's going to slowly get back to his best. And I'm glad that Arteta's kind of stuck with him. And it's almost weirdly kind of helped the fact that Odegaard's out, because Havertz had to drop out of the centre-forward main role. Trossard's had to come in, which means Martinelli essentially has no competition on that side, so he's getting the full 90 in all competitions, or close to. It's only Sterling that kind of is playing slightly out of position on the left to kind of replace him, who also got a goal at Bolton, which is really important, and an assist. So, and he was on for the last 10 minutes against Leicester when the turnaround happened, and him and Ethan and Wary really changed that, kind of forced that goal kind of to happen. So both of them were kind of a big part of that. But the talking points are we scored 2. That's good. Usual kind of thing. The two of their goals, I don't think there's much to talk about. One of the things that they brought up on match day was the foul on Vardy from Saliba in the build up to the first goal. Is it a foul? I genuinely don't know anymore at this point, honestly. As an Arsenal fan, I know, like we've talked about for a long time, the conspiracy theorists that are Arsenal fans, but there is also so much stuff happening recently that has definitely made people the people that would laugh at the fact that we're conspiracy theorists over in Arsenal have made them go, oh, maybe when someone, a friend of yours isn't a conspiracy theorist, and you kind of show them something that for like some theory, and they go, oh, no, that's weird. I feel like that's happened in the last couple of weeks with the 2 reds, and then the way in which the PGMOL have handled it, plus the way in which Dermot Gallagher on Sky Sports has handled it, because it's all visual. There's actual proof of him just literally saying the opposite 2 weeks running. So I think people will kind of go, oh, that's not a good look. Because even like we said, Goldbridge, people like that are kind of going, I don't get why Arsenal are the only ones that are getting the brunt of this situation. And again, like I said last week, I do think some of them are circumstantial, that I think we've been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't think it's just us. And then obviously once you do it, I think they're thinking, oh, Arsenal do that. And it's like a secondary thing they're thinking and like looking out for it. But I don't know. But the way in which they've handled it is more annoying than the actual reds and stuff like that. But in that first half, did Vardy get fouled? I don't know. If it was given, I don't think anyone would have complained. I think if it wasn't given, I wouldn't have complained. We've watched a couple teams against us kind of throw Gabriel to the ground physically and get in, and the ref hasn't given it on the edge of the box. So when they're like inconsequential around the halfway, I'm not as bothered, because if they're willing to give it where it's like the last man and he pulls him down and he runs on goal, then whatever, I'm happy to see it. So I don't really mind that. But again, like I said, we were clearly dominant. I think the goals were coming anyway. But the second half is when it gets a bit more kind of dicey, because at 2-2, Califuori makes a yellow card tackle. He's already booked. He makes a second foul where he kind of sticks his leg out and pulls it away. It's definitely cynical. He definitely pulls out because he realises on a yellow. I definitely think that could have been a second yellow. And I wouldn't have necessarily had a complaint, because on a booking you don't trip someone like that. So I think we got away with one there, definitely. But in the first half is where we have the issue, and this is where it's going to come back to Dermot Gallagher, is not only did they run off with the ball twice, and again, if you watch the Man United Spurs game, Ugarte did it as well. He ran off with the ball and threw it away. And you saw the players go, oh, that's a booking now, isn't it? And then nothing. Indeed, he gets on a booking early doors. And then they make a foul on Saka. And indeed, he comes across and he just hits the ball out of play. Just knocks it out of, similar to Rice, but if he was 20 yards from the sideline as opposed to 1 yard. Just knocks it away. And again, delaying the restart is the whole point of this. And for example, there's a couple of throws we tried to take in that game where the guy grabbed the ball to stop him taking a throw. Nothing. And again, people would say, well, that's not a free kick. But I think the whole point of this, and I don't... Again, when you go back to the root of the ruling of delaying the restart, none of us want... No one cares. We didn't need them to make this rule. This isn't a... this isn't a thing that they need to... They didn't need to do that this year. No one had a problem. We didn't watch games and go, I wish people would stop picking the ball up after a foul. So they've kind of made their own bed. But yeah, indeed, he comes over, he knocks out a play, and obviously Arsenal asked for the booking, but they don't give it, obviously. And Dermot Gallagher on Sky came out, and this is a week after the Trossard one, where he said he's delaying the restart by knocking the ball away after he knocks into the back of Silva. And he said it's a letter of the law, he has no choice, he has to send him off. And this is just before half-time in probably the biggest game so far this season. This is the same guy that also said the refs have to, for Man City not getting a red against us last year, you have to think about the size of the game, the magnitude of the game, and not ruin a game before the half and things like that, so the paying fan isn't ruining it, blah, blah, blah. But then he was happy a year later to do that, which is very frustrating. But the Ndidi one, he's watched and he said... Saka's down still, so he's not delaying the restart, so he can kick the ball away. So that's a new kind of wrinkle to this, which kind of it does make sense. But it doesn't make sense to the fact that last week he said Trossard had to go letter of the law because he's knocked the ball away. But Silva was down and no one could take a quick free kick. So technically, if he's going by that logic, that one shouldn't have happened. So it's very confusing now because 1 week he's saying you have to do it letter of the law. Next week he's saying, well, no. And then he also, this is the kind of hypocrisy of it, or like, in my opinion, just straight up gaslighting fans, is he said, what do you all want? People to be sat in the stands every week because everyone's been sent off? No, not one fan wanted you to add this rule. And then you've implemented it against one team so far. This cost 4 points of the season, potentially. Who knows what would happen. So no, we don't want people to understand. Nor do we want... I couldn't care less if people pick the ball up after we want to take it. It's always been since I was a kid. If you smash the ball away in anger, that's a booking. If you block a free kick being taken, like stick your leg out or whatever, that's a booking. If a guy put the ball down and tried to take a quick one and you ran over and nudged it, that would be a booking. It's all clear. Then adding the whole no, he's touched it. Okay, we're going to book him. He's not touched it. Okay, it's just mad. They've grayed an area that didn't need to be grayed. And I think they've just made their own bed. And I think they're going to, having watched the rest of the weekend, well, the whole weekend, with then in our game, there was 3 of them that they did. In the PSG game, ironically, they did it loads, and European refs couldn't care less because they haven't added that rule to where they're from. But you see the Arsenal players were asking for every single one. Every time they nudged it, but yeah, the European, and again, the last night was perfect example. The Atalanta game last week where we gave away a penalty, but that ref was so good. Last night that ref was so good, and again, I don't even know if the refs are really good. It's just you hardly notice them, you hardly hear the whistle. They just ref it correctly. Whereas in the Premier League, every single game, you talk about the ref afterwards, and it's not based on anything other than the quality of the refs. Because the UK refs, there's no way you can't talk about the performances after because they just do weird things. Whereas you watch Champions League and you can watch every game this whole week. There's loads now. I don't know how many there is. 17, 18 games or whatever. And everyone will go, yeah, all the refs are good. And you're just like, how can it be that different? And even if you watch La Liga, you watch anywhere, the refs are so much better. So, yeah, I think the Calafiori one definitely was a second booking based on any rule. Based on this year's rule, indeed he should have also been sent off. And again, different game. The goal we scored late was very good, and we've definitely changed a bit because the celebrations were big, but they weren't Bournemouth big, if that makes sense, from last 2 years ago, and a couple of the late ones last year. It was almost like an element of inevitability about it because very similar to the PSG game. They were saying late on on the commentary, they were like, you won't remember this game in 5 years' time. And I can't believe we're at a point where we're playing PSG at home and we're winning comfortably, and we're not going to talk about it in 5 years, because I mean we talk about 2-1 against Barcelona that we lost that tie, but 2-1 at home to Barcelona again. That is a very good Barcelona team compared to a very young rookie new PSG team. But it's just it shows our jump and other teams' kind of slight drop that we're not going to be talking about it, and it is just normal. And I think that late goal was kind of an example of they acted almost like it was going to happen, and then it happened. And obviously we sealed the win as well with Havertz late, where Havertz had to explain the rules to the refs, which was always interesting. The Leicester player kicked it, so he can't be offside. So they overturned it and they made it a goal, which again is so mad that that conversation happens. The Calafiori also went down injured. There was a slight panic, but he did play against PSG 3 days later, so panic over. But no, overall, I'm really happy with the result. Like I said, you have to kind of look a bit deeper to be like, that game wasn't close, even though it looks kind of close. Similar to a little bit to the Chelsea game. Chelsea smashed Brighton, but it was 4-2. But no, it was a really good weekend. Across the league, Marty Leo 92 in TikTok just said Liverpool top of the league, and Liverpool are. And like Arnie Slot said, at the start of the season, we looked at the first 6 games. I think Wolves had the worst start to any team. Arsenal had the second based on Opta. And Liverpool had the easiest based on Opta of the 20 teams. So we kind of expected them to be top. I don't think, if you'd asked Arnie Slot at the start, you would concede 2 goals in the first 5 but be top, but you would have lost at home to Forest, he would have just taken it, because how mad was that Forest game in hindsight already. So yeah, Liverpool should be top. We expected them to be top at this point, if not City, just because City figure it out. But City again haven't had an easy start. They've had Chelsea, they've had Newcastle, they've had Arsenal. So everyone's going to have the week that Arsenal had a horrible 6 games. Or I say horrible 6 games. I think you almost have to say 4, because the last 2 are not, you couldn't, for in your first 4 games or 5 games to have City, Villa away, City away, and Tottenham away is extremely hard. Yeah, and Khaled's just said Liverpool haven't played a top team. Even Slot said it exactly, and Slot knows it as well. Like, you can only beat the teams in front of you. So he's just done that, except for Forest, but he's still top. But he's going to, I think there's a week where they have to play Arsenal and Chelsea and Real Madrid in like 6 days or something is coming. So everyone's going to have that week, and just Liverpool haven't had it yet. But we're still settling in. Again, like I said, with this weird suspensions and weird reds, with plenty of injuries, making our squad super, super light right before getting these injuries, which is our own doing. To get through this, and again, 1 more game to go, and then we can kind of rest and have a little look back and be like, all right, we've navigated that better than any of us could have imagined. Just got to get through Southampton. So that is the next port of call. But we did get our second game in the Champions League, our first night back at the Emirates in the Champions League. We were at home to PSG. And like I said, PSG is such a good team, but they're not the team of 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, without Mbappe, and Dembele didn't travel due to disciplinary issues. It's a very young team, but a very technical team. And listening to Seedorf and Lampard, etc., on the kind of Amazon Prime build-up, they were very much saying kind of, we expect PSG to be very good tonight because they might not have the superstars they used to, but they're a much better team and they're more cohesive. They're young, they're super talented. So they kind of all predicted kind of a draw, maybe a PSG win. So to go out and kind of just do what we did. And again, they're the smallest team in Europe. We're the tallest team in Europe. There was things like set pieces were eventually going to get it. The irony of the goal coming from a low set piece with the height is funny. And I feel like Nicolas Jova is like that as a person. So I feel like that's on purpose. Khaled just said was last time we played Southampton at 3-3, and yeah, that kind of cost us the title. and Ramsdale gave away a goal, and so did. And Partey shot really late on, and everyone will never forget. And Jack says, "What pop is this? This pop is me in my wrestling deal." The brothers all. So a fan, Sammy, made it for us. The set piece was really nice. Saka to score again. The Cole Palmer, Foden, Saka, who's better thing I don't really get involved in, don't really care. I think the talk was because Palmer scored a free kick, Saka's never scored a free kick in his career. It's ironic that he scored a free kick straight after they said that. But it's clearly not like a typical free kick. It's a cross that became a shot. So, funny things like that. Havertz's goal's really nice. Trossard's assist really good. Having a drink. Apologies for the audio. Yeah, and also there was a free kick we did. And by the way, I don't know if anyone agrees. I thought the crowd was really quiet, considering it was the Champions League the first night back. I don't know. It felt the atmosphere didn't feel quite, what I expected. I don't know for sure, but the 2-0 win was very good. But there was a set piece that we did. We were 2-0 up in the first half, and I think it was Martinelli was kind of fake tying up his shoelace. Everyone was offside at the back post, like we always kind of start, and how the goal started because they all run onside and then run to the near post. But they're doing this thing, and then Partey runs, and they all shout at him. Everyone stops. Then Martinelli gets up, and you're like, at the time you're thinking, is Martinelli injured, or is this all a part of the thing? And it was a part of the thing. And what happened was none of them tried to get back onside, so PSG just didn't move, and they all ran offside towards the middle of the box. The ball goes to the back post, and the only guy onside is Trossard. If that free kick's correct, he knocks that back across to genuinely about 5 players who have open goals. But the idea that we've got those kind of set plays in amongst the usual ones is mad, because I mean that was like, if that was a little bit bad, that would have been such a good set piece. But it's weird as well. Like I was listening to Alan Shearer in the commentary, and he kind of said like Arsenal are really good at set pieces, the way in which they surround and hold the goalie. And I was like, it's such a novice thing to be like, oh, Arsenal just mess with the keeper, that's why they score so many set pieces. But it's just really good set pieces. Yeah, we they've blocked keepers. Everyone does. We block keepers. We block runners. We do all sorts. Again, it happens in every set piece. We just do extremely well. But the ones at the weekend against Leicester were mad, because we've been doing a thing somewhat recently where everyone stands in a cluster at the back. There's a bit at the minute where it happened at City as well. It's the exact same goal that happened at City, really. But what happened was Gabriel was on the edge of the box. Everyone else is at the back post. Everyone runs across the front. But what they're doing is no one has any intention of headering the ball unless the ball's bad and it gets knocked short by accident. But essentially, they're all running across just to block every runner. So it's kind of forcing everyone forward. And Gabriel and Havertz are the only two that are actually attacking the ball. Havertz is like on the edge of the 18-yard at the back end towards the other corner flag. Gabriel's on the edge of the box here. And then there's about 6 players that run to the near post. Everyone follows them. And then Gabriel sweeps around and the 2 of them attack the ball. And if you remember in the Man City game, Gabriel missed just before he scored. And then they changed Doku to Walker. Walker did those weird little touches. And then he ran around and did it. And all the City players were at the front, and everyone was blocked because they were, again, it isn't Arsenal actually standing in the way. Their own players are blocking their own players because we're running into the areas where the other players are. So it's just like a cluster, but there's no intention of any of them trying to head the ball. So to have set pieces where only 2 people are actively trying to header it on purpose, as opposed to there's 8 of you in the box, figure it out, someone score, is mad. And then against Leicester we did the same, but it was Trossard and Gabriel, but they were going longer so that everyone was completely blocked until it hit Trossard back post. Right before we scored the goal, Trossard basically hit the post or right next to it and it got blocked with the exact same set piece. So the fact that we've got these different versions is really interesting. And again, you can't score as many set pieces as we do without a lot of training and all these kind of things. And the idea that people say, oh, they block keeper or they do dark arts is hilarious. I love the dark arts stuff, to be honest. But all that kind of stuff, For example, the ball was in play less than any other game in the Newcastle City game this week in the second half. Newcastle went down maybe 7 times. We went down 3 times. There was no conversation about Newcastle doing the dark arts, which was really strange. It's a completely different question on that, which is odd. But hey, we carry on. And City had 11 men behind the ball at the end. But yeah, Khalid says Jova has changed life. He really has. And I love the fact that we defend like an Italian team sometimes, like where we just, like even last night against PSG, once we had the 2 goals, they were just like, "I'll conserve energy and just don't let them do anything." So we just sat back, and everyone was like, "Oh, they parked the bus." It's like, no, we just defended and then sprung attacks when we were ready because we know we got a game in 3 days, and the game is won in the first half because we did all that in the first half. And if we're short, again, our big issue 2 years ago was we couldn't knock down the low block. So now what we do is with a low block, you give away a lot of corners. But by kind of nature, because you're near the goal and you're having to header it wide and all sorts, and goalie saves because of long shots, things like that. So what we've done now is everyone's terrified of the set pieces. So no one wants to be in a low block. They want to clear the ball back into play, which means that the quality players like Saka and that are getting more time on the ball. So it's a double-headed kind of weapon, and it's really smart because, if they were going to low block, we force set pieces. They don't want to set pieces. They knock it into play where all our kind of best players are. So we found our way around it, and it's definitely working. And it's quite fun because I enjoy watching the possession football. I quite enjoy how much they celebrate defending and celebrating a clean sheet. And I also really look forward to corners now, which is such a part of the, growing up in the Wenger era. I mean, it's not something we did, we were so good at counter-attacking. The other teams wouldn't even take corners properly because they didn't want to be counter-attacked on. But I mean, to come full circle and we're the team that do really good set pieces, really, I don't know, really like it. I just enjoy it. I love that team that they've put together. I'm excited for Moreno to be fully fit again. He had a 30-minute cameo. I think he made 3 tackles and an interception and 1-2 aerial duels or something crazy. So exactly what we thought we were getting is what seems to be what we're getting. And there was a moment where we were in that kind of low block shape near the end, and we'd taken Partey off from Moreno. And I love Thomas Partey. I think he's a really good player. I think all his passes are forward. They're kind of aggressive. They're through the lines. Whereas I don't think Rice does that as much, if at all. And but with Partey comes a lot of losing possession because he's trying something to kind of get us forward. And he's obviously older and he's aging and his body's not what it used to be. Watching Moreno come on, a big athletic guy like that, who wants to win duels, and him setting directly into this low block, going side to side with Declan Rice and Havertz, I was just like, what a nightmare for teams. And these giant athletes, just kind of younger, and HK just said Partey is slow. Yeah, exactly. And watching Moreno come in and do that defending, I was like, oh my God, we're creating a worse wall for teams, basically, which was nice to see. And I like the fact that we can do that, but we could also go, here's Inwary, here's Odegaard, here's Trossard, here's some technical players, let's go play a proper tick-attack type football. Khalid says team are full of giants. It really is. I mean, the way in which they get excited about clean sheets is mad. As we move into some of the Premier League stuff this weekend as well, I think we kind of mentioned some of it. One of the things I haven't mentioned has just been brought up on the chat. TDF says, you think it's fair for Bruno's red card to be overturned? I think it's more than fair. I do. I don't think it was a red card. He slipped. He tried to block the ball and the side of his foot hit someone's knee. I don't get why that's a red. I get that they said it's high, but I mean, the fact that VAR didn't figure it out pretty early. We all saw one clip and went, oh, he slipped. It wasn't a straight leg. It wasn't studs. It wasn't a standing foot. It wasn't anything dangerous. I mean, Martinez jumps in 2-footed like an eagle, picking up something from his talons or something. We've got Oliver Skip in the Arsenal game go over the ball on Martinelli and then kick the ball away with not even a booking. Those are the ones you got to get rid of, not the kicking the ball away, the over the ball stuff. So for someone to kind of slip and just throw a wafty foot out there to kind of block him, it's mad. So I'm glad they overturned it. I didn't think they would, to be honest, just because of the way they are. So no, I think it was correct. But the problem is they got it so wrong. They know they got it wrong, hence they've overturned it. But that doesn't help Man United, does it? At half time they go in 10 men and 1-0 down. If they were 11 men, they could have had a nice little change, maybe some subs, gone for it in the second half and won that 2-1. But they're relying on refs that are clearly bad. So, I don't know. For me, I don't get it. I think some of the reds this season, like Bruno's, Trossard's, Rice, none of them should have had to have happened. There's just, I think this is a lot of nonsense. You look at Palace, there should have been red card, there should have been a penalty. They're just all over the place. I think they're just generally bad across the board. You just got to hope your team don't get the brunt of it. And at the minute Arsenal have, I'm hoping that swings and roundabouts. We're going to start getting Calafiori one might have been the start of it. I don't know, but I'd like to see us get a couple and kind of go, we've dealt with it, so our team's going to have to deal with it. But it still doesn't defeat the idea that people pay a lot of money in Sky. Now you've got to do BT, Sky, Amazon Prime, everything. To keep people going to the games and then staying, in London or, travelling on the underground and stuff like that. The amount of money going in and they're sending people off and knocking a ball a yard is just, it doesn't make any sense. And the idea, the kind of hypocrisy of we want you to stop slowing the game down. So what we're going to do is put you into 10 men into a low block and slow the game even more. Doesn't make any sense either. I mean, a sin bin. I think someone said originally, if you knock the ball away, the other team can have the free kick 10 yards forward. That's a smart way of getting around it, because if you're on the edge of the box and you do it, 10 yards, indirect free kick in the box, or a direct free kick where the penalty spot is, like distance-wise. So teams aren't going to do it, are they? They're not going to even touch the ball. So if you're going to do it even in your own half, cool, but they're going to have it in your half now, which means they could set up a set piece. So for me, the 10-yard thing makes a lot more sense than a booking, because all you're doing is slowing the game down even more by sending players off. So I think they've got to figure it out. They've pushed back the automated offsides, which makes no sense. There was stadiums in Qatar that never held anything who had automated offsides. The Premier League has been running forever, best league in the world supposedly. Still can't implement it for some reason and can't get it right. It's not hard. And weirdly, we've had the first year ever that I can't even remember a really close offside that's been talked about yet. Whereas most years we've had someone who's not offside that's been forgotten about. The lines have been weird and everyone's kind of been like, oh, that looks a bit sus. We've usually had all these things by now. And this year, I can't even remember. I feel like offside's been working fine, so I don't know. TDF says VAR's ruin a game. Potentially, I think VAR would make the game a lot better if they just used it correctly. They create these rules like knocking the ball away, or you can't overturn a decision because of this. Just get it right. In the City Newcastle game, the ref went to give a booking and waited for ages and then gave it. So he's obviously having VAR go, don't give it yet because we can't overturn yellow into a red and blah, whatever it is, or give it a yellow, blah, blah, blah. So they were just delaying it, which I don't mind. But then later on, for example, Bruno's red card, all he had to do is go to give the red and go, do you know what, wait a sec, let them talk, watch it a few times and go, it's probably yellow, just go with the yellow. Pull. Then they don't have to overturn anything, blah, blah, blah. But they dictate when they want to do these rules, like last year with Liverpool. They realised they'd made a mistake like 10 seconds after they'd restarted the game. Just stop the game again. And they were like, no, because once the game restarts, we legally can't stop. It's like, you've made these rules to make it harder for yourself. None of it makes sense. AI VAR coming next season. Do you know, it would be great. I don't think it exists because you could watch a game with someone and, offsides, handballs, things like that. We can make that black and white if we make rules. So, for example, last night there was one in the PSG game where it came off a player straight into a hand. That's not a penalty because of the rule that if it comes off your own player then hits your hand, you have no time to react. Or if it comes off a body part then hits your hand, that's not a penalty. They're fine. And we can all agree with that because even when we grew up and there was no VAR and things like that, you would go, oh yeah, he couldn't get out of the way. And you go, okay, and he'd carry on. Whereas now, because we see bad decisions, we all go, I saw that last week, why are we not getting it? So we're in a whole different thing now where we don't even see clearly because we're going, we just want to win our one back, the one that we lost a couple of weeks ago or that kind of thing. So you can make things like black and white, but, I know people that have watched that Bruno Fernandes one back, and 25% of people would say that was a red. It was dangerous. And then 75% of people would say no. And then VAR agreed beyond the game, PGMOL, I should say, and they've rescinded it. So we can't agree on that. People could watch the Martinez one and go, that's a red because he jumped in 2-footed. But someone would go, he didn't touch him or anything, so it can't be a red. So no one can even agree on it. So AI would never work because they can't even program a machine to tell you what the real decisions are because they change each week. It's just TDF said Madison even said it wasn't a red. We all knew it wasn't a red, so it was just I can't believe VAR didn't. And VAR would just say, oh, we just didn't think it was enough to overturn. It's like, you've created this rule that it's not enough, and this is a magical metric that we don't know how strong it is, and they're like, it's not enough to overturn. It's like, well, what is enough? I don't know. So they made it. They made a mess of it with their own rules. They've done it themselves. But we're all kind of got our own agendas now as teams. Like Man United are going to be like, if someone even does that in a game, we're going to be like, we won a red there because we had to deal with it and we lost a game because of it. Arsenal, anytime someone knocks the ball for the rest of the season, they go, why is that not a red? Because we've lost points because of it. So everyone's kind of everyone just wants their thing back. And now they're fighting a losing battle because they'll never be able to do that. So it's their own problem. Every year we're going to talk about refs. It's only in this country, and I'll never understand it. But this week, Bolton win the Carabao. We're through on that. We got Preston North End away from home. We beat Leicester very convincingly, but also very scarily. And then we had PSG at home, and we very easily beat them. 4 points from the Europa Cup champions and PSG. Our two hardest games, we've got Inter as well, but I'd say these are probably the harder games. That's good. Shakhtar Donetsk at home next, who lost, I believe, 9-2 to Munich. So you get a win there, you're going to be in. I think we're in the top. I think we're 8th at the minute, but there's a load of teams that haven't played. We could drop to as low as 10th, 11th maybe. We were 15th before this one. So, we're in and around it. We need to get to that one more game. There's 8 total. So if you win the next one and then maybe draw the other one, you're going to be in the top 8. So that all looks good to us. Inter away from Khaled says that'll be a real test. Yeah, them at Atalanta are really tough away games. PSG at home is the hardest home game. But other than that, like I said, I think if you win 4 out of the 8 and draw a couple, that would be 14 points. I genuinely believe that would probably be enough to top 8. I really don't want to get into that playoff thing, the secondary bit. So let's just hope. But I mean, to get into top 8, you've got to be in there with, Munich are probably going to win every game. City are going to win every game. Well, they've drawn the same as us, but Madrid, Barca, it's going to be tough, but I mean, we should have enough to get in there. A really good game tonight is Villa versus Bayern Munich. That'll be interesting to see. HK says, do you believe Arsenal will go far in the Champions League? I think we'll go as far as we did last year, if not further, but I don't know. It's tough with cups. So much stuff goes into it. Timing of the other team, the timing of your team in like a quarter or semi, the draw, the flow you have at that point, what you're doing in the league and other cups. There's so many things that factor in. And again, other teams don't have to worry, like City and Madrid. They've got gigantic squads. It really doesn't matter what happens elsewhere. They'll do fine. We have such a light squad that we have 16-year-olds playing in the Premier League at the minute. And we're only 6 games in, or 6 games in. So make of that what you will. I think we have a chance. I really think we should take everything seriously this year. The way in which Arteta's got that team going, I think in some capacity, every team that gets put out there is going to try not to concede. So that means we're always going to be in every game, and that is in the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. If last couple of years, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, we've had horrible draws or going out early. If we get a nice swing of good draws, I'd love to be in the quarterfinals of all 3 of those cups minimum, and still be in the title race come February. But I think it's a big ask. But we'll see as the season goes on. What I can tell you is we move into the Prediction League, which is brought to you by SeatGeek, which our promo code is TBA Wrestling if you want $20 off your first purchase. I can tell you last week, I'm just trying to find it on my notepad. It's good audio, I'm sure, for iTunes and Spotify. Last week, I got 4, and Joe and Simon got 6, which extends Simon's lead. So I'm in last place with 26. Joe is on 28, and Simon's on 30. And this week, I have Simon's predictions already locked in, which is usually after the fact. But I haven't got Joe's because he's not here. He's not here today. He's in Orlando, and he's asleep right now. So he'll be sending his predictions when he's awake, and I'll add them here. So next week we'll go through who got what. Because next week there'll be no Prediction League. There'll be no games to talk about. It'll just be the Saints game. So I don't know what we're going to talk about. Maybe we'll review the first 7 games, things like that, and how we're finding it, blah blah blah, injuries, team news, all that kind of thing. Might be a shorter episode, but that's fine. Because the week after we'll be getting ready for, I think it's Bournemouth away, before Liverpool at home. We've got Shakhtar, Preston. It basically goes into a slew of football until about February. There's going to be chaotic. So again, similar to like Arsenal, we'll have a nice break, but we'll still be here. Just a light episode. Should have got Joe up on a split screen. I know. And if you guys are listening to this and you don't know, we have another podcast called The Peppercorn Boys. That is myself, Joe, and Bruno, who does the Man United podcast sometime with us. It's just a comedy podcast. And when I was in America, I would join that. And I just joined it from like a beach somewhere. So hopefully that will be out by the end of the week. So if you want to check out that other podcast we have, The Peppercorn Boys, please do. It's on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Here we go. The Prediction League. The first game is Klopp special, 12:30 on a Saturday. Palace at home to Liverpool. Simon's gone with Liverpool. This is a difficult one. I think on paper you look at that and you go, do you know what? Palace at home, 12:30, that's going to be problematic. Liverpool have been really strong. Other than that Forest game, again, they had a lot of chances in that game. They've only conceded 2 goals. Khaled says Liverpool seeking revenge. The other thing with all this is Palace are really poor. I don't know why. They've got some kind of balance issue. I don't know if it's losing Elise and adding Eddie. You've now got Eddie and Mateta kind of fighting for the same spot, and they've kind of gone to a 4-4-2. Something's not balanced in there. I don't know exactly what it is. They seem very defensive. That Man United game, Man United looks so much better than them, which is not what you'd expect. So the fact that they couldn't necessarily get up and get into a good formation and a good attacking prowess against Man United, I think they're really going to struggle with Liverpool. I'm gonna go a draw because I'm going with my heart, but I do think this is a Liverpool win all day because Palace just can't seem to get their stuff together. I don't know what's going on with them. HK says Liverpool draw against Palace. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. I'm agreeing with you. Like I said, any other year, if this was Elise and Eze either side of Mateta at 12:30 against Liverpool, even against Klopp's Liverpool, I'd be like, I fancy Palace against anyone at that point. But they were really poor. They lost to Everton. They should have had a penalty, yeah. But they were 2-0 down at home to Leicester. I don't like the look of this. This could be quite a heavy win for Liverpool. The next game is Arsenal versus Saints, which again we've kind of spoken about. I really would like to see Ethan and Wary start this, get back to our original shape. Again, like I said, we created more chances and shots on target than any team in the last 10 years in the Premier League. So maybe don't change it. But that team also went and did a job on PSG, and they're probably more tired. HK says 4-0 to Arsenal. Going back on the last game, Khaled says Liverpool should beat them comfortably, but I hope a draw. That's pretty much where I'm at. I really think the set pieces, Ramsdale knows what's coming. Some of those shots he should have kept out against Bournemouth. I thought Bournemouth were good, but I thought Saints were really poor in that first half. If they show up like that, and we're as ruthless as we were against Leicester, and Ramsdale doesn't play quite like this goalie, because I don't think anyone will play like that goalie ever again, this could be a big score. But you just never know. They could score early and it changes the atmosphere in the ground. We struggle. They get behind it. Who knows? Anything could happen, obviously, but I really hope for an Arsenal win there. Khaled said routine win for us. Ramsdale own goal would be perfect. I love Ramsdale, but I definitely watching him the other night. Realised that we had like rose-tinted glasses looking at him. I think we just liked him more than we saw the quality. And I think Arteta just really liked him, but knew the quality of someone like Raya. Because, I mean, Raya's an unbelievable keeper. I really don't like the look of Saints. I think they're in real trouble. The next game is Brentford versus Wolves. Simon has gone Brentford. Oh, I forgot to say Simon went for Arsenal, obviously. I'm sure Joe will be as well. Simon's gone Brentford. Brentford have 3 weeks running scored in the first minute, which is very interesting. Brentford are decent at home. Wolves are an interesting one. I think they're a little bit unlucky against Liverpool. I think they're in the game. They just don't have any cutting edge. They're bottom of the league, but like I said at the start, Opta had them as the worst start of the season with us second. Theirs was comfortably first. It was a horrible start. They got a point from the one game where they thought they might get points, and they got no points from anywhere else. Some people saying Wolves might be in the relegation battle. I really don't think they are. I think it's just based on the fixtures. If in mid-November we're talking here and they're still bottom, we're maybe in trouble. But they're going to have more games that are much more winnable, like this one. But saying that, I am going to go Brentford. But I don't think Wolves are in trouble that people are talking about. I think it is just based on the way the fixtures built up. HK says Wolves need to win. The first sacking could happen. Yes, and we'll talk about the first sacking in a minute when we talk about Man United, but you could be right. The next game, I really like Gary Neal, by the way, is Leicester versus Bournemouth. Simon's gone draw. I'm going straight in with a Bournemouth win away from home. Bournemouth, really like the look of that game against Southampton. They look really good. Evan Nilsson finally getting that first goal, I think, is definitely going to set him in the right direction. I think he's a really good forward. He's not slanky. He's not as proven in the Premier League, obviously, but he's a very good forward. I think Arsenal even looked at him last minute in the transfer window. Semedo, I say it wrong, I think. Semedo, on the wing. Unbelievable player. Guarantees almost an assist every week. He's going to be snapped up by someone. I hope it's not Chelsea. It'll probably be Liverpool. But I'd love Arsenal to look at him. Beyond the season, if Sterling isn't staying or anything like that, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard and him would be an unbelievable mix. Premier League proven now. He's so dangerous. Creates so many chances. I don't think Leicester are that bad. I just really like Bournemouth at the minute. The next game is City versus Fulham. Simon's gone City. I think Fulham aren't the surprise package. I think we all kind of not expected it, but kind of hoped for it. People calling them Hale End FC or Arsenal 2.0. But with Leno, Nelson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, and with Jimenez, Munez, they got a really good team there. Anderson's now in the centre back. They've looked really good. The only thing I'd say is they win 1-0. They win 2-1. They're very neat and tidy. They're like Wolves, but they're a bit more cutting edge. And I don't think they have the breakaway speed of like a Forest or Brentford to do a damage at the Etihad. I think at the end of it, they pretty much concede in the first 5 minutes every time and then win 5-1 or something. I kind of expect something similar, but I almost think Fulham, with their manager, might actually try and do a job and see what happens. And again, this has been my big gripe for City is City are the best team in the world. They have the best manager. They have the best players. But teams also turn up not to go, let's get a point or let's get a win or let's treat it like a cup final and get the point. They go there and go, we're probably going to lose, so let's just try something. And I truly believe that's why City wins so many games and why the points are so high. And I think Liverpool go into that stature where teams just went, if we're going to Anfield, let's just try something. Because if it doesn't work, oh well. If it does work, brilliant. But we didn't expect to win. And we need to conserve our energy for next week when we have a more winnable game. I think City have that aura about them that teams do that. I really would like to see Fulham. Arsenal have given everyone the blueprint. Newcastle did it. If everyone does it, I think you'll knock points off them because with Arsenal, you do a low block, we go to set pieces. With City, you do a low block. They don't know exactly how to break it open. Haaland is their kind of opener who can kind of do something. Either rise highest, shoot from a slight distance, give him half a yard and he puts it in the top corner. But it's not as guaranteed. So I think if Fulham went there to get a draw, they could. But I just don't know. I'm going to go see, obviously. We'll see. Khaled said, I hate it when teams camp in versus City. Put Dharma on the halfway line. I talk about breakaway speed. There's no faster breakaway speed in the league than what Fulham have. Smith Rowe, keeping up there with him to kind of give him someone to get it to. They could really do some damage because City really struggle with that counter-attack. Again, like I said, you usually annoy them. Fulham needs to do a Spurs on Man City. That would be very helpful from each game. The next game is West Ham versus Ipswich. Ipswich got a really good draw from Villa. Simon's gone draw. West Ham Super 11, I say every week, just definitely not living up to the hype at the minute. They are really struggling. But I think this is their day. I think Ipswich have got 3 draws in a row or something. They're making hard work of it. But, I mean, they're picking up points and they're showing a lot of heart. I think this could be just one of those days where it just works out for West Ham. So I'm going to go West Ham, home win. I don't know for sure. I don't know. HK says, come on, Ipswich. The next game is Everton after their first win of the season against Newcastle. Simon's gone draw. I would have to agree. Again, Everton are not as bad as what people had them down as. I think Everton were just missing a lot of chances, giving away leads. They score a lot of goals. And again, Newcastle are a lot higher up that league than we realised, I think, for a lot of us. They're kind of sticking in. They've had a lot of injuries, a lot of top players missing. But I'm definitely going to go draw there. Just checking if anyone in the group's done any. I've got a puzzle on TikTok. Oh. when you fail the puzzle, it nearly ends the whole live, so I apologise. HK says I like Sean Dyche. We all do. The next game I think is the 5:30 game. Is Villa at home to Man United. This is not the game that Man United want coming out of what they're going through at the minute. But I say this every week. Man United at home against Spurs. That's a game in which Man United will lose and the crowd will boo. They go away to the likes of Villa or West Ham or something like that, and you go, oh, they'll lose this. And then they just win 2-0 and you go, I don't understand what's happened. Villa are coming off a short week where they're going to be going against Bayern Munich. Again, Man United will be in action as well. But Munich, I'm sure, will take you out a little bit. McGinn's missing that game as well. Villa, you could see the tiredness already getting to them in that Ipswich game. I don't know about this one. I'm gonna go Villa with Simon, but I think there could be more to this than meets the eye. HK says Man United are done. Villa are on fire. Yep. I think Rodgers is an unbelievable player as well. With the Champions League, I think they're just tiring already a little bit. They'll need this international break, but if I was Man United fan, this is not the game I want. I didn't want to do it second game of the season. When we did, we went and got a goal and kind of broke the game open and then got a second. Could have got a third. But, I mean, we were not the better team that day, I wouldn't have said. The next game is Chelsea versus Forest. Simon's gone Chelsea. Chelsea, attacking-wise, have definitely found their kind of rhythm without Cole Palmer. And then this week, Cole Palmer found his rhythm. To score 4 in a game is really mad, by the way. I think people will kind of gloss over that. But that's crazy. I know Arshavin did it. But I know 4 goals is mad. And to do that against Brighton's really good. Forest are not as good as Brighton. Forest and Brighton were the undefeated teams outside of Man City and Arsenal. They both lost that this week. So just Man City and Arsenal are the undefeated teams. Forest did do something at Anfield very special. I just think Chelsea, it's almost like they've got 300 quality players and 9 of them attack you at once. And I think that's just how they score. I think that's their method. I don't know for sure. HK said if Chelsea click, they will be formidable. We've said it on here for 2 years. Their potential FC, could the potential being realised. Khaled says Chelsea are good, but these teams are too naive against them. Why are they playing such a high line? I don't know. And again, I've said that about City for a long time, the way teams play against Man City. I think with Chelsea is everyone's kind of going, Chelsea are rubbish, and then trying, and then realising, oh God, they're really talented. So until people kind of adjust the way they see them, they might get similar opposition. 4,000 players in their squad from HK. I'm going to go Chelsea as well. I do think they'll win that. Forest had a really good start to the season. And I think I might have actually had them down as potentially going down. But I really changed my mind. I think they look like really solid. They finally got it together. Callum says, yeah, we play the nastiest low block ever. Yeah, we do. We score a couple of goals and then we do the horror. We're like Wenger and Allardyce mixed. We're just nasty. We're a horrible team. Jay in the chat said, who was your man of the match last night? I'd definitely go with Havertz, and I think he got it. The last game of the week is Brighton versus Spurs. That's a good game. I'm going to add, Simon's gone Spurs. I'm going to go Brighton because I can't go Spurs. That would be a fun game, I think. Not a nice place to go, Brighton. We found it, we drew with them. I don't know. That's a tough one to call. Callis says, come on, Brighton. Yeah, it's a tough one to call. I'm going to go Brighton. Simon's got Spurs. Like I said, Joe's predictions, I'll find out and I'll write them all down. So next week, I'll have the results going into the international break. But that is it for this week's episode. Like I said, Bolton, PSG, Leicester all beaten. Just Saints to go. And then we can kind of sit back, relax, have a drink, and think about what we've done so far. The podcast will be back next week. It'll be me alone again. I might see if I can get someone in on it, just because Joe won't be back still. See what we can do. And we're on iTunes, Spotify, and we're on TikTok every single week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. GMT, if you want to watch along. if you like the episodes, obviously let your friends know, and go onto TikTok as well. And we do 2 episodes a day. Sorry, 2 TikToks a day. Give them a comment every single time. Give them a share. Give them a repost. I think it is on TikTok. Do all those cool things. Just to kind of help us grow the podcast. Thank you for being in the TikTok. I know there's a decent amount of you in there. And thank you for letting us know your predictions. We'll be back next Wednesday, going into the interlull with England again. I don't know how this keeps happening. But we will see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.